Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, join us as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that sorts of good stuff. And I'm going to let you guys know right now, I don't know what we're getting when we come into the actual live questions and stuff like that, but I'm going to let you know right now, we are not going to get dragged into any Game of Thrones debates. Just so you know, we are not going to get dragged into any Game of Thrones debates. We'll talk Game of Thrones once the final episode airs. We'll probably do a little bit of predicting what we're going to see in the final episode as we get later on in the week. But joining me today to talk about all the great stuff going on in the world of film is the one and the only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, I'm good. I got mad at all my Hot Toys figures and burned them all up yesterday. Just because, no reason.
Again? Well, I can only assume then your Hot Toys gave you years of advance notice that it was going to happen. And of course, joining us is Ashley Whalen. Ashley, how you doing?
Hey, good morning, guys. I have my Starbucks here. I'll try not to leave it on set anywhere.
I saw that. It was an Easter egg. Listen, there is a whole bunch of stuff going on in the world of film here today. We have a bunch of main topics that we're going to do. However, before we get into that, we want to go off the top with this. Rob, I know one of the movies you're really looking forward to is the James Bond movie, Bond 25. And it looks like it may have hit another little bit of a delay. The reports are coming out right now that the production on the film has been ceased, for the moment, at least at any rate, because of an injury by Daniel Craig. Now, what we're hearing out of this is what they wrote in Variety. The difficult road to production on the latest James Bond film has hit yet another hurdle after shooting was reportedly suspended following an injury to star Daniel Craig. According to British newspaper The Sun, the actor fell while sprinting on the set in Jamaica last week and has been flown to the US for x-rays, resulting in a suspension of the shoot. He was sprinting during the filming when he slipped and fell quite awkwardly, the source said. He was in quite a lot of pain and was complaining about his ankle. So, Rob, look, yet another kind of a hiccup and bump in the road. This seems to have been a very going all the way back to pre-production. We had Danny Boyle directing, gone, then this happening, then this delay, and blah, blah, blah. They're shooting the movie now. It's happening, but yet another little bump in the road. I know you're excited about this film. What's the first thoughts that come to your head when you hear about this?
Well, first of all, I hope Daniel Craig's okay.
Yes.
I hope that there's nothing wrong with his ankle that's too serious and that maybe he'll only be down for the count. Maybe the production team, I know they say production's been halted, maybe second unit's still working. I don't know, but God, I hope this movie's going to be good when we finally get it. Because I, John, am flying to London. I'm going to see this in Leicester Square at the Odeon Cinema, the same way I went and saw Skyfall when it opened with real fans.
Wow.
I'm going. It's the 25th Bond film. I saw the 50th anniversary Bond film in 2012, which was Skyfall. I'm going to see this. You're all invited. Let's all go.
So I got to imagine, though, at this point, because I feel like they started shooting a little while ago, how big of a bump could this be? Because, look, if one actor goes down, you can rearrange the shoot schedule to try to just pick up other stuff. But I guess it must be at a certain point that they just got to say, we're going to put this on hold. If it's an ankle thing, too, like remember Harrison Ford? He had that leg injury because a door in the Falcon dropped down on him. But they improvised. They shot around it. Then they had some of his shots that he was going to be standing. They shoot him sitting, blah, blah. I got to imagine this is going to interrupt things too much, do you think?
Well, remember, obviously, when you're producing a film, shooting principal photography is an incredibly expensive proposition. And it's the only time I think that any business, you can actually see how much money, you can calculate how much money every second costs on a set. And on a movie like this,
that's why good line producers worth their weight in gold.
My God. On a movie like this, I can only imagine every second you're looking at probably, let's say, just $30. $30 a second. And you're shooting for 12 hours. So think about how much these movies cost. Him going down for the count. Luckily for a Bond film, there's a lot of, if they can shoot around it, but they've got worldwide schedules. They've got stuff they have to get to. These are very complex movies to shoot. Some of the most complex movies ever made, especially with all of the action. So maybe in Jamaica, their second unit team can continue, but they do say that production has been halted, which means they've stopped. And that's
expensive because you got to still pay everybody who's there. You got to pay all the people
they got
there.
Insurance if you got good production insurance, but even the production insurance, what are you looking at? $100,000 days on these movies? That's not out of the realm of possibility. $100,000 days, that adds up real quick. These movies are $250 million things. Probably a lot more than $100,000 a day. And they're on location in Jamaica.
Yeah.
So how much more shooting do they have to
Which
do
is
there?
actually probably cheaper than on location in New York.
It is definitely true. It is cheaper, and at least if you're going to be halted in production, that's not such a bad place to be.
All right, guys, let's move on now to our main topics today. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys select them by sending me your topics and questions by going to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you get there, fill out the form. Once you do, hit submit, and maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. With that down and out of the way, Ashley, what is our first main topic today?
First one up is from Harry the First. Hi, John. I wasn't a big fan of the first Maleficent movie, but it wasn't too bad, and I thought Angelina Jolie was pretty good in it. Just wanted to see if you saw the new trailer for the Maleficent Mistress of Evil that they just dropped. I'll admit, I think it looks really beautiful, and I'm liking the feel of it. Just wanted to know your thoughts. Thanks.
I'll tell you what, that first Maleficent movie had a lot of excitement going into it. One of my favorite memes ever was the Mal 50 Cent, and it had 50 Cent in with all the makeup for Maleficent. It was great. Anyway, I'm getting caught up. The problem with that movie, though, was, besides the fact that it wasn't very good, was the fact that they promised us, and what they told us was, this is a movie about the bad guy. This is a movie about the villain. We're going to see this classic Disney villainess, and they marketed it as such. They said, that's what we're going to get. That's what's coming. And instead, what we got was another movie about the misunderstood hero. And that's fine. And I could have lived with that too if the movie overall had been a bit better. But Angelina Jolie was fabulous in it. I mean, I thought she was just absolutely fantastic in that film. So now we've got this new one coming out. I was comme ci, comme ça on the first trailer that came out. This is the second one. I got to say, Rob, I like this second one a lot more. I'm not quite sure why Maleficent is dressed for a Vegas pool party. That's fine, whatever. But I got to say, I did like this trailer a lot. And again, Jolie comes across as kind of menacing. It feels like maybe she's going to take that villainous turn. I don't know. What did you think about the trailer?
Well, first of all, what I love Michelle Pfeiffer. And I'll watch anything Michelle Pfeiffer's in.
Yeah.
And when I felt like you. The first movie, all right, it was fine. They made a nice hot toy, Maleficent, though. And I thought it was fine. But this, as soon as Michelle Pfeiffer said, "Are you threatening me?" I'm like, I'm in. I mean, I'm like if they're going to go head to head, I mean, I know that you've got Elle Fanning,
Dakota's sister.
who is growing into like a preternaturally beautiful woman. I think her choices are incredible. She does these incredible indie movies, and then she's in this giant Disney film. So I think she's really
Dakota kind of followed the same little path a bit, which is why she had such a successful
I think
run.
both of them have done some really interesting things. I mean, Elle was in Neon Demon, which is a movie
which was great.
I mean, it was different than I thought it would be, but I was like,
it was
wow,
strange. I'll give you that. It was really strange.
What a choice to make. But what a great cast. I mean, I'll watch this movie, but if I just want to watch Angelina Jolie and Michelle Pfeiffer go head to head.
It was great. And what was the way she said it? Like, what did Michelle Pfeiffer say? Like, if I didn't know better, I would think you're threatening me.
She's trying to be nice because she's a nice
and
queen.
And do you? Do I what? Do you know better? Oh my God, that was fabulous.
I'm like, bring that on, man. That's what I want to see, and I'll buy that on 4K.
I hope it's good. Yeah. Because like I said, I had a lot of pretty high hopes going into that first one. You know, Disney was entering into this live action idea with their classic characters. And frankly, I was a bit, it wasn't hot steaming garbage or anything. I was quite frankly a little disappointed, but Jolie was great. Ashley, did you have a chance to see this trailer?
I didn't see the trailer because I somehow missed the first movie. I didn't see Maleficent.
Oh, you didn't even see the first Maleficent. You're not missing much.
Yeah, but I do. I'm such a fan of Angelina Jolie. I think she's fantastic. So I want to watch maybe both. Like I'll watch this one and then the new one.
Yeah, her performance in the first one is absolutely fantastic. It's great. All right, let's move on to main topic number 2. What's next?
All right, next up is from Isaac. Man, I'm sure you'll agree what might have been... Oh, is that? No. Sorry. The second one is from Adam Reich. I'm seeing lots of sites claiming that Disney is making a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids remake with Josh Gad, of all people. Why would they try to touch a classic like this? I know it's not the biggest movie of all time, but it's special and should be left alone, in my opinion. And Gad has never done anything worth watching. What kind of insanity is this?
Well, okay. Let me start off by saying this before we get to what's going on here with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I think any movie is open game for remaking. I've always felt that. Hell, remake Star Wars someday if you want. Because if you remake the movie and you end up with a good movie, yay, we have another good movie to enjoy. If you make it and it sucks, yay, I still have my original. I mean, so really, I've never felt any problem about remaking a movie, as long as it's not too recent or there's no kind of point to it right now. So I'm totally fine with them doing a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Also, Josh Gad, I ain't bad on that either. I actually really liked him in Beauty and the Beast. And what was that one he was just in with Mahershala Ali? That was just out last year. Oh my God! Well, I'll look it up. I'll look it up here in a second. But he was in this movie with Mahershala Ali last year. And while I wouldn't have nominated him for an Oscar for it, I think Josh Gad's performance was like, you could at least entertain a few ideas about Oscar. Like, I really thought he was quite exceptional. And I never liked Josh Gad up to about a few years ago, but he's really been impressing me the last few years, so I don't mind that. Now, for those of you who are wondering, what the heck is this whole thing? Our friends over at Slash Film exclusively reported that they have gotten confirmation that Disney has signed on Josh Gad to appear in this film. Here's what they wrote over there. Disney Pictures is developing a reboot of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids with Josh Gad attached to star. Now, apparently the name of it is just going to be called Shrunk. The plan is for the movie to be set about 3 decades after the 1989 original, with Gad set to play the grown-up version of scientist and inventor Wayne Szalinski, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, son, Nick Szalinski. The new movie, which will be titled Shrunk, will be a reboot of the original film. This is where it gets confusing to me. It will be a reboot of the original film, but positioned as a legacy equal, which means it will exist in the same world and continue the overall story. If you exist in the same world and this is the original character's son and it continues the original story, it's not a reboot. I mean, it's a relaunch, it's whatever you want to call it, but who cares? Now we're getting into semantics. So that's the basic in and out of the news we've got here. Rob, you're hearing about them reapproaching something like this. You're hearing a Josh Gad being attached to this. What's your first impressions when you hear about this?
A Lego sequel?
A Lego sequel?
I mean, my first thing is that, like, so Creed is a Lego sequel? Like, I guess The Force Awakens is a Lego sequel? I do like that
Maybe that's
term.
a new term, yeah.
You know, I have to say, I loved the first Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
With Rick Moranis, the Canadian kid.
I love the effects. You know, there's an old movie called Mysterious Island it's based on Jules Verne's story, that had giant bees in it, you know, stop motion bees. I loved Mysterious Island when I was a kid, and seeing what they did in Honey, I Shrunk the Kid was like crack for the imagination. I loved Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And, you know, it got a little, was Honey, I Blew Up the Baby? Was that the last one?
I can't remember.
It got a little away from the franchise, but
as some of the movies in the 80s and early 90s
they were wont to do. But I like this idea. Like, if this could be the Creed of the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids universe, bring it on. Somehow, I don't think it's going to be that. But look, anytime people get shrunk, I'm in, because that makes everything else bigger. Bigger bugs, bigger vacuum cleaners, bigger anything, bigger dogs, and give me shrunken people. I have a bee in my bonnet whenever I see shrunken people movies. There was an old show called Land of the Giants that Irwin Allen produced. I love that show. I want to see shrunken people again. It's time.
Do you think they're going to go too CGI heavy, though? I don't know. Like, I love animatronics, and, like, that's, you know, I feel like if it's too CGI, I'm going to be pissed.
Well, the one thing they can't do is, like, one of the great things about shrunken people movies is the big props they have to build. You know, like, they won't do, like, Lord of the Rings. They have to build, like, big giant chairs, and they have to make giant pencils.
Which is so fun.
Yeah,
stuff.
giant computers and all that. I love that stuff. It just appeals to the kid in me. Bring it on.
Now, here's, of course, the big main question. Here's one that everybody has to be asking themselves. Since Disney is doing this, will we find out that Rick Moranis' character was a longtime friend of Hank Pym? Follow me here. They're all under the Disney Universe banner. Maybe Rick Moranis helped develop the Pym particles, and this is an extension. It's all shared. Rick Moranis is in the MCU there. You heard it here. I've confirmed it, ladies and gentlemen. I guess the really big question here, though, is for you guys. What do you think about the idea of reapproaching Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? Do you think this is a story that today's audiences will go out to see? What do you think about the selection of Josh Gad? Surprisingly, I actually kind of like it, but maybe you don't. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to topic number 3. What's next?
All right, and now this one is from Isaac. Man, I'm sure you'll agree what might have been is one of the saddest questions you can ask yourself, and that's all I could think about when I heard that Peter Jackson was offered the Aquaman movie on 2 occasions and turned it down both times. Don't get me wrong, I like Aquaman, but to think about how special it could have been if a director like Jackson did it. Do you think it could have been one of the best comic book films of all time? Thanks, and bring on the filthy.
Well, there's a couple of assumptions being there. Now, for those of you who don't know what it is he's talking about, Peter Jackson was recently doing an interview, and I don't know how this came up, but basically Peter Jackson confirmed that he was on 2 different occasions offered Aquaman by then head of Warner Brothers, Kevin Tsujihara. And Peter Jackson tells a story. He goes, former Warner Brothers CEO Kevin Tsujihara said, "Are you a fan of Aquaman?" I said, "No." 6 months later, Peter, "Are you a fan of Aquaman?" I said, "No, Kevin, I already told you this." And he went on, so he was basically offered it a couple of times. Now, hey, listen, it is a fascinating notion. What would an Aquaman, not just a comic book movie, but a more kind of out there comic book movie like an Aquaman, what would that have looked like helmed by Peter Jackson? What could that have been like? I think it would have been quite great, but here's the problem. The thing about your messages, and maybe you don't like the Aquaman movie, and that's totally cool. That's fine if you don't like it. But it assumes that the Aquaman movie, it feels like you're assuming that the Aquaman movie is a total disaster. And they just got me to direct Aquaman instead of James Wan. As if they didn't get an established, exciting, a director that can do some really special things. And they did. Now, I have no doubt, Rob, that if Peter Jackson had done Aquaman, and I'll admit, the idea of that makes my mouth water a little bit. I mean, that does sound exciting. That could have been great, and it certainly would have been a different film than the one James Wan ended up giving us. I think that's safe to say. It would have been a very different film, and I'm sure they both would have been great. But I don't know that when I think about it, I'm more filled with curiosity rather than lamenting, oh, what could have been, because I quite enjoyed I don't think it's the greatest movie ever, but I quite enjoyed Aquaman. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought what James Wan brought to the table was really great. So it's not like Dude, Where's My Car being directed by Steven Spielberg. It's not like a night and day difference to me, but I don't know. Like, what do you think about that? Do you think if Peter Jackson had done it, we would have gotten an infinitely better Aquaman?
No, because he didn't want to direct it. I think what is most important to realize about anybody who's working on a film, and especially the director, is you're going to work on a movie for years at a time.
Yeah.
And you need to be committed. And I understand you thought you were going to get a Lord of the Rings feeling Aquaman movie, but your premise is now based on what James Wan has already done.
Right.
You wanted to see Peter Jackson's riff on the way James Wan presented it. I think if Peter Jackson had done an Aquaman movie, it would have been very different than what we got. Just
Agreed.
because we got this epic fantasy thing, I think Peter Jackson would have gone in a different direction. I don't know what direction that would have been. And look, I'm with you. I think if he loved that movie and wanted to make it, we would have had something really, really special. But it would have been different. I like James Wan's Aquaman a great deal, and it is goofy and it is balls to the wall fantasy craziness, and the battle at the end is nutty. But I loved what it was, and it seemed to fit the character. I mean, I know a lot of people want a serious. I think Peter Jackson would have made it much more serious. I mean, there was a whimsy to Aquaman that I found refreshing.
Yeah, and look, also I think inherent in the question is this assumption that if Peter Jackson had done it, it would have been Lord of the Rings underwater.
Right.
But Peter Jackson is more than Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Like one of his one of his films that we don't talk a lot about. What was the name of the one he did with Mark Wahlberg there about the murdered little girl? I'm drawing it. Can you look that up, Ashley?
It's,
I can't.
The Lovely Bones.
The Lovely Bones.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Like that is, if you watched The Lovely Bones and you had no idea who directed that, you probably wouldn't have just gone, "Oh, this feels like a Peter Jackson film." Like I don't like. And then you look at something like a King Kong, or you look at and they will not grow old. The documentary he just did about the war. That doesn't feel like a Peter Jackson thing. So I think we also can't assume that had he done Aquaman, it just would have been Lord of the Rings underwater. It may have been crazier than James Wan's. It may have been deadly serious. I don't know. But yeah, I'm curious. But I know what I got out of James Wan's Aquaman, and I know I liked it. So I don't know that I would have traded. I don't know that I would trade it at this point. But honestly, what do you guys think? If you had the option that you would have to get rid of the James Wan Aquaman to roll the dice and take a chance to see what a Peter Jackson's Aquaman may have looked like, would you take that chance? I personally wouldn't. Maybe you would. Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, Ashley, what is our next main topic today?
Next up is from Omar R. Why is Warner Brothers so dumb? Think about it. Suicide Squad, that sucked, has another one getting made. Aquaman was okay, is getting another one made. Wonder Woman, pretty good, is getting another one made. But I haven't heard anything about another Shazam movie, and to me, that was the best DCEU yet. It was the best reviewed movie they've ever done, but still nothing on a sequel. What gives?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there has been no word on anything Shazam except some not so great stuff. Now, we've all been hearing some whispers recently that the future Shazam may be in doubt. And look, I'll straight up tell you, I've never enjoyed, other than the Man of Steel, I've never enjoyed a DCU movie more. I liked, Shazam's my second favorite DCU movie. Some people it's their favorite, some people it's their worst, whatever. But just for me, just to let you know where I'm coming from, it's my second favorite DCU film. But there has been some murmuring lately around, and I'm sure you've all read the same things, that, you know, the future of Shazam could be in doubt, despite its great critical reviews and stuff like that. And a lot of that has to do with money. But anyway, we'll get to the critical reviews and the money in a second. The doubt seems to have been furthered now this week by Zachary Levi himself. When Zachary Levi was basically asked, what's coming up next? And he kind of admitted he doesn't know at this point. Anyway, this is what he specifically said at a convention recently. He said, I see him where's Shazam going? I see him wherever my bosses tell me to take him. That's above my pay grade, bro. Like, literally. And I'm totally fine with that too. You know, I'm still being introduced to the character that I played and to the world that he inhabits. You know, there's Jeff Johns and Walter Hamada and all the people at DC who are very smart and very talented, and they are putting together, I think, some very cool things and journeys for all those characters, Shazam included, Captain Marvel included, said Zachary Levi. But that had a lot of other people then writing and talking about the fact that, so right now this doesn't sound like there's any definitive plans. You combine that with some of the rumors going around that they may actually not have a future for Shazam right now. By the way, be very clear on this. Nobody said that officially. Now, going back to what you asked in the email, there's actually something you said that's a little bit erroneous. You said it's the best reviewed DCEU movie so far. It's actually not. It's the second best reviewed. Actually, the best critically reviewed DCEU movie right now is the original Wonder Woman. Great movie. Patty Jenkins did such a good job on that. 93%. Shazam, though, is the second best critically rated one they've ever done at 90, followed by Aquaman at 65, Man of Steel 56. I still don't get that. Should be much higher, but that's just me. Justice League at 40, Batman vs. Superman at 27, and Suicide Squad at 26. So you're looking at this, well, hey, I love this movie. Second best critically reviewed movie of all time. How can there be any hesitation? How can there be any doubt? Well, because of this. See, while it's the second highest critically rated movie in the DCU, the fact of the matter is that by a long shot, it is the lowest grossing out of any of the DCU. Number one being Aquaman at $1.1 billion, even without Peter Jackson. Imagine that. Batman vs. Superman at $873, Wonder Woman at $821, Suicide Squad at $746, Man of Steel at $668 million, Justice League at $657, and Shazam comes in way at the bottom. Like, wait, I mean, at least now you can say Justice League, which should be $1 billion film, isn't the lowest grossing DCU movie anymore. But now way at the bottom, you got Shazam at $360 million. Now, it should be pointed out that at $360 million, because they made that movie so financially responsibly, the movie's actually profitable. It's actually made them a little bit of money, but not a lot. And when you consider the fact that the marketing for this was quite good, that the critical response was very positive at 90%, the word of mouth was very good, and you were still only able to pull together $360 million. I think they will make another one, Rob. I think they will. I think they're going to look at this and say, hey, the positive momentum that we get from Shazam with positive critic reviews, DCEU hasn't had a big history of positive critic reviews. This gave it to them. They may make a good case that, hey, this one made money with all the positive word of mouth and everything. The next one will make more money, blah, blah. But you do look at that number, Rob. 360, almost half of what the second lowest one has ever made. And you can kind of see why there would be some doubt at this point, couldn't you?
No, absolutely. But, you know, if you think back to the first Marvel movies, that sort of skews along what Captain America, the First Avenger made. I mean, the problem is everybody wants this $1 billion number now.
Yes.
And everyone is looking, they forget that Shazam is a character that was a little iffy, didn't have the kind of I think, brand awareness that Batman or Superman or Wonder Woman or even Aquaman had.
Yeah. In 1950, that might have been different, but...
Absolutely. And I think now, as it goes out into ancillary markets, as it's on streaming and cable, more people are going to discover it. Zachary Levi is he had such a winning portrayal of this character. Charisma. He was so good that I think that, look, it's a great jumping off point. And if you're going to play the long game, which you should be playing, they should make another Shazam film. Make it a little bigger. Involve the Marvel family, because I think for me, when the Marvel family shows up, I didn't see that coming, even though I should have. It was right in front of me the whole time. I was delighted. I thought, this is great. I would watch a whole movie with the Marvel family. I mean, let's see that. Let's give it some bigger scope. Let's make the stakes bigger, and I hope they make another one. But it ain't show friends, it's show business. And you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. In this movie, it's all about money.
Yeah, and of course, and we get it. It's a business thing. Got to see where that can go. And I'll tell you what, though, with the post-credit stuff on Shazam, even just the credit stuff, where they were showing Shazam with all the other DC heroes, is like, it did whet my appetite a little bit to see a little bit more of that. Look, I'll tell you straight up. I'm with you, Rob. I really hope they do this. I really hope they make another one. But I am not going to fall over in shock and surprise if they don't. At the very least, this thing didn't lose the money. But let's kind of cross our fingers and see where things go from there. All right, with that down, let's move on to our final main topic today. Ashley, what is our final main topic today?
All right, guys, last one is from Trisha McDonald. This is it. The last episode of Game of Thrones is this weekend, and it has been my favorite final season.
Oh, sorry, that got switched out. You didn't get the new one.
I didn't.
You can see it up there.
All right, great. Never mind. Roger Teppin. Hi, John, Rob, and Ash. I've seen Endgame 3 times now, so I guess I've done my part. But I just saw that Endgame is slowing down pretty fast, and it's still about $300 million away from the global box office record and over $200 million short of the all-time U.S. box office record. It would have felt like a stupid question 2 weeks ago, but is there a legitimate chance it will fall short of both those records when it seemed like it would easily beat both?
It is actually a little bit crazy now. First of all, jump back 2 months ago. It was pretty hard to believe. Even the most enthusiastic and most optimistic of people didn't think there was a solid chance. I was more skeptical than most that Endgame could catch Avatar at all. Then opening weekend happens. It became almost inconceivable that it wouldn't. I mean, at that point, opening weekend, Rob, it was a foregone conclusion now. It's catching all these records. It's going to be the biggest movie of all time, both domestic and foreign and all that kind of stuff. Absolutely. Even I, who was amongst the most skeptical, had to go, yeah, it's going to break those records. It's just, there's the facts. It's going to break the records. Now, I'll tell you what, I am still in a position right now that if I had to put $5 on it, I still think this movie's going to catch Avatar. If I had to put money on it, I think it still is. But the guys over at Brad over at Box Office Mojo, one of the best box office guys around, he just wrote this on Box Office Mojo that was up there today that kind of puts it a bit in context. Now, I know there's a lot here, but this is all really interesting stuff from Brad over there, so listen to this. With an estimated $63 million, that's this past weekend, Avengers Endgame topped the weekend box office for the third straight weekend in a row for domestic cume that now stands at $723 million. Understand, that's still more than $200 million short of The Force Awakens domestically. Endgame is only the third film ever to top $700 million domestically, as it topped Black Panther to become the third highest grossing domestic release of all time. In second place right now is still Avatar. That's around 700 and something million. Internationally, Endgame added another $102.3 million for an international cume that now stands at $1.76 billion and a global tally reaching $2.485 billion. Still about $300 million short. The film remains the second highest grossing international and worldwide release ever, trailing Avatar in both categories, though by just $302 million worldwide and $265 million internationally, in what could end up as a very tight race. Rob, we have kind of ping-ponged around here a little bit from, okay, it'll be huge, but it won't catch Avatar, to, oh, it's absolutely blowing by Avatar.
Right.
to now that we're seeing, again, that stuff that you and I have talked about quite a bit, those two big trends. Bigger emphasis on opening weekends, more and more audiences go to see a movie early in its release rather than later. We're really seeing that kicking in here now as the pace for Endgame has dropped off. It's still great. Make no mistake, it's still amazing, but more significantly than we thought it would have at first. At this point, Rob, because about a week ago I was saying, yeah, it'll still catch The Force Awakens, but it might not, but it will, but it might not. It ain't going to catch The Force Awakens for the domestic record. I think at this point, I feel pretty safe saying that I really don't think it is. It still could. It's possible it can. But it's going to make probably about 30 to 35 million next weekend. It's got 200 million more to go. And we got John Wick Chapter 3 opening next weekend. We've got Aladdin coming. We got Godzilla coming. Pikachu. The Pokemon fans are going out to see Pikachu. I don't think it's, at this point, I don't think it's going to catch the domestic. I still would put $5 on it catching Avatar, though, for the worldwide, which is the more important one. The worldwide total one is the more important one, in my opinion. I still think it's going to catch that one, but I don't know. I think Brad's right. It's gone from a foregone conclusion, and now it was a question of how much over $3 billion will it go? Now it's a tight race if it's even going to catch Avatar. I still think it would. Rob, as we're seeing the new numbers come out, new information comes out, where do you stand on all this right now?
Well, first of all, it's already one of the most successful films ever made. It's the most successful MCU movie ever made. Yeah, it's and you know, when you really get down to the nitty-gritty, Avatar was a decade ago, which, as far as our culture is concerned, is ancient history.
Ancient history.
And I think we live in a world now where movie-going trends have certainly changed a lot. The world of streaming has come up a lot. Look, what Endgame has done has already been extraordinary. Whether it catches Avatar or not, I think there's a good chance it will in the international market. And like you said, I don't think it's going to do it domestically. I think Star Wars is anomalous. Force Awakens was anomalous, and particularly to America, that Star Wars is sort of a special thing in this country more than anywhere else in the world. And it's going to be tough to ever beat that, I think, for any movie. If Endgame can't take down Force Awakens, I don't see what in the future could. I'm sure there's something that will that I can't even foresee yet. But yeah, I don't think it's going to beat Force Awakens domestically, certainly. And I think it's going to, if it beats Avatar worldwide, it's going to be a squeaker. It'll do it because it's going to have to play for another month. They'll leave it in theaters, and it'll come panting across the finish line and just get past it. But does it really matter? It's a lot of money that movie's made.
Oh my
I'd
God.
love a little bit of that cheddar. Just slice me off 2%. That's all I want.
Yeah,
it's done well for everybody.
Here's the funny thing, though. We've been talking a lot lately about, hey, Titanic, for the first time in 22 years, has fallen out of the top two spots. Tip of the cap to Titanic, holding on to those top two spots for 22 years. I don't think that will ever be equaled. But think about this for a second. If Endgame, and remember, I think it will catch Titanic, but I'm saying, or Avatar, I should say. If Endgame doesn't, if it comes 500,000 short or something like that, what's going to beat Avatar? Like, if Endgame doesn't do it, Spider-Man, Far From Home ain't going to do it. Star Wars Episode 9 ain't going to do it. There was a time when I thought Lion King could maybe make more money than Endgame until Endgame made as much money as it did. Lion King ain't making $2.7 billion. Lion King's not going to do it. I simply don't see, if Avatar doesn't get taken down now, we could be seeing that thing in there for another 5 years. Because I honestly don't see what's on the horizon in the next 5 years that could possibly catch up to it. Do you at this point?
No. Unless the next Avengers movie.
But that
if they ever make one. I mean, it's really interesting. The slate for the MCU, since we don't know what it is, it's all open-ended, and I don't know if we're ever, even another Avengers movie, I don't think you can expect the kind of global box office Infinity War and Endgame have done.
No.
I think you're going to be back down to 1.5 and.
Back down.
I know. I know.
To a measly.
I know, but the perception of people. They're gonna.
I know, it's
any
crazy.
movie if an Avengers movie makes 1.2 billion, it's like, that was a disappointment.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where which is absurd, but that's the world that we live in because there's no nuance anymore.
Yeah, look, I told you guys before, if Endgame could make all the money in the world, but if it doesn't catch Avatar, I told you there are going to be boo birds out there. They're going to go, oh, so Endgame failed.
Wait, they're going to be what?
Actually that good. What's that?
Boo birds?
Boo birds. You
know, boo birds.
Boo birds.
I was like, I'm unfamiliar.
It's a sports terminology of the fans that boo their own team. But the boo birds are going to come out and say, what went wrong? It's like, oh my God.
I love that word.
The boo birds.
I'm going to use that in a sentence sometime today.
I think, look, let's say for argument's sake, and again, I would put $5 that it is going to catch it. If it doesn't catch it, do not let that distract anybody. And don't let anybody distract you from the overwhelming historic accomplishment, at least at the box office and the way they've captured the audience's imagination to get out to the theaters. Don't let anybody downplay that, because it is the biggest movie in the history of cinema, other than maybe one that came out 10 years ago. I still think it's going to cross it. But Rob, let me ask you this, though. At this point, while I am pretty much ready to resign, I feel like we're a network on election night, and even though there are still votes coming in, we're calling the winner. I feel like I can safely, maybe it's not safe, it's not a guarantee, but I'm calling that Endgame will not catch The Force Awakens for the all-time U.S. box office record. I do feel safe in saying it will not get to $3 billion. I still think it'll catch Avatar, but I don't think it's going to get to $3 billion.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
But think about this. Let's look at this holistically. Infinity War and Endgame, two sides of. They're pretty much the same story. It's one long extended story. We've talked about
two very different films.
Two very different films. But if you look at the two of them as an accomplishment.
Oh, it's nuts.
You're looking at $4.5 billion worldwide. I mean,
two movies.
This is insanity.
$4.5 billion.
Insanity. I mean, that they were able to accomplish this. And by the way, in a year, they came out a year apart.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
A lot of people were made happy by those movies.
Yes, they were.
A lot of people that invested. Look at the Disney stock. My man Bob Iger, when we were having a little squash game on Sunday, certainly is happy.
Oh, yeah. I hope he paid for you, by the way. I hope
he did.
Paid.
He buys me my lobster at Jeffrey's in Malibu.
All right, guys.
Used to be my favorite date restaurant, but now he takes me.
I got it. Well, it's still your favorite date restaurant then, because someone else is paying. All right, guys. I want to know what you guys think. You're hearing the analysts now saying, hey, this is going to be a tight race. Do you feel like I do and Rob does, that this will still catch Avatar? Or do you think, you know what, John? No, I'm feeling the momentum's gone. It's not going to catch it. What do you guys think about that? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. We now of course, here on the John Campea Show, take time to take live questions. But before we get to those live questions, you know what? There's a hell of a lot of other stuff going on in the world of movies and entertainment that we want to get you caught up on. So fact checker Jonathan is pleased to present to you this week's installment, or today's installment, I should say, of the Movie News Feed. Check it out.
First up, Momentum Pictures has purchased Escape from Pretoria starring Daniel Radcliffe. From Variety, Radcliffe appears alongside Australian actor Daniel Webber from The Dirt. The pair play freedom fighters Tim Jenkin and Stephen Lee, who were jailed in 1978 for being involved in covert anti-apartheid operations. Based on a true story, the film follows Jenkin and Lee, joined by a fellow inmate, as they decide to escape from prison. After months of planning, and in a race against time as the authorities strengthen the prison's security, they craft wooden keys for the numerous steel doors between them and freedom. The Momentum team previously released the film Jungle, which also starred Daniel Radcliffe. Next up, fresh off his Oscar win for playing Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody, Rami Malek has already put his newfound clout to use by signing on to play the villain in Cary Fukunaga's as-yet untitled James Bond 25. Now, according to Screen Rant, the actor has joined Denzel Washington in the cast for Little Things. Written and directed by John Lee Hancock of The Blind Side, Little Things will star Washington as Deke, a brilliant but burnt-out Kern County deputy sheriff who joins forces with another detective to catch a serial killer. By the look of things, the project will mark one of the Oscar winner's next appearances on the big screen. Malek will play Baxter, a Los Angeles County Sheriff Department's detective who teams up with the older and more experienced Deke to track down and capture said mysterious murderer. Filming is to begin in September. Next up, it looks like yet another streaming service is on the horizon, this time via NBC Universal. From Deadline, at its glitzy upfront event at Radio City Music Hall in New York, ad boss Linda Yaccarino said that its most loved titles were coming home. Yaccarino went on to say, "Next year we're going to unveil the largest initiative in our company's history. We're going to have our own ad-supported platform. While other companies are pushing advertisers out, we're bringing them in. It will have a slate of originals and a gigantic library of all favorites. The shows that people love the most and stream the most are coming home at a price every person can afford. Free. NBCU CEO Steve Berkus said it would be a safe assumption that the company would try to reclaim titles like The Office once the service launches, with about 15,000 hours of programming derived from the wide array of broadcast, cable, film, news, and sports. Next up, Taika Waititi has had great success recently with Hunt for the Wilder People and Thor Ragnarok. Now, his latest film, Jojo Rabbit, has been given a fall release date. From The Wrap, Taika Waititi's next film, Jojo Rabbit, in which the director stars as an imaginary version of Adolf Hitler, will be released by Fox Searchlight on October 18, 2019. The film is described as an anti-hate satire and stars Roman Griffin Davis, Thomasin McKenzie, Scarlett Johansson, Sam Rockwell, Rebel Wilson, Stephen Merchant, and Alfie Allen from Game of Thrones and John Wick Chapter 1 fame. The film is based on the novel Caging Skies by Christine Lunens. Set during World War II, the story follows a lonely German boy, played by Griffin Davis, whose worldview is turned upside down when he discovers that his single mother, played by Johansson, is hiding a young girl, played by Mackenzie, in their attic. Aided only by his idiotic imaginary friend Adolf Hitler, Jojo must confront his naive patriotism. Waititi's depiction of Hitler isn't meant as a sympathetic one. Rather, the character is a combination of Jojo's father and the Führer, and shows a boy who both misses his dad and is confused by Nazi propaganda around him. Next up, following the surprise hit of the faith-based music drama I Can Only Imagine, Lionsgate is working on a follow-up entitled I Still Believe. From ComingSoon.net, after already landing two strong leads in Gary Sinise of Criminal Minds Beyond Borders and KJ Apa of Riverdale, the cast has expanded once again to include country star Shania Twain and Tomorrowland's Britt Robertson. Apa and Sinise will play true-life father and son Jeremy and Tom Camp. Jeremy is a Grammy-nominated singer and songwriter with more than 5 million albums sold. The film will reportedly deal with his journey of love and loss. Twain has signed on to portray Terry Camp, mother to Jeremy, while Robertson is set to star as Melissa Henning, who starts as Jeremy's love interest and eventually his wife. The group will begin shooting the film this spring for a planned March 20, 2020 release. And finally, Sunday marked a very special anniversary for fans of the Terminator franchise. It was 35 years ago that the first Terminator film was released. 35 years later, the sixth film in the franchise is in post-production, getting ready for release this fall. Director Tim Miller celebrated the anniversary by letting fans know that the first trailer for Terminator Dark Fate is on the way, and showing us a single shot from the trailer seen here. In the original Terminator, Sarah Connor was a woman in over her head and on the run for her life. However, knowing that she needed to be able to protect herself, she became a fighter and had transformed by the time we saw her in Judgment Day. It seems the plan for Terminator Dark Fate is to pull the same move as the recent Halloween sequel, by ignoring all sequels that came after T2 and picking up the story from there. Terminator Dark Fate is set for release November 1st. And that will do it for today's installment of the Movie News Feed.
Love Terminator.
And now, I'm sure you heard Ashley there, we are all caught up on today's installment of the Movie News Feed. That's when you don't know when the audio is coming back in. So special thank you to fact checker Jonathan, who's doing a great job with these, by the way. I really like the job he's doing on that. Okay, guys, now it is time for our live questions. So let's jump over to the live question board and start taking them right now. Ashley, what do we have?
All right, first is from Raven. Today's word is pedantic. To negatively display one's book learning or trivia, Raven has never been accused of being pedantic, probably because his friends don't know what that means.
You know where I first heard that word? Family Guy. Pedantic. I mean, that's where I first heard Peter saying that on that. That's a good word. All right, what's next?
Raven, second word of today is pontificate. To speak in a pompous way, such as a know-it-all. Raven has also never been accused of pontificating. Why? See above. See where I'm heading here?
That's actually a word that I see. That's the first word you've brought up here, other than pedantic, that I've actually heard other people use a lot. But I like these words of the day. All right, what's next?
SLVN 89. When do you think Sam R will reboot The Shadow?
I don't know that he is. This was brought up the other day too, Rob. A bunch of people, there was a bunch of films that Sam Raimi was apparently going to be working on. The Shadow was one of them. The Shadow with Alec Baldwin and Ian McKellen is actually one of my guilty pleasures. I really like that Shadow movie. I remember the knife. That was like CGI magic at the time. Never seen anything like it. But I honestly don't know that it's ever going to get made. Have you heard anything about it, Rob? That it could be getting
I
made?
don't know, but I love The Shadow. Only The Shadow knows.
Only The
I
Shadow
could I could
knows.
pedantically pontificate about how much I like The Shadow,
All right, what's
but
next?
I won't.
Dalton Burdett, did you see the Hollywood Report that George Clooney's advice to Affleck was to not take the Batman role? I think it's unfortunate that sometimes actors can be seen as responsible for a film in the eyes of the audience and sometimes the industry too.
I have not seen that report, but I'll tell you what, it doesn't surprise me. George Clooney has always been rather regretful of his turn as Batman and taking that role, and I'm sure he would have passed on that advice to Ben Affleck as well, and I got a feeling Ben Affleck may be passing that advice on to other actors now. I don't know if Jake Gyllenhaal gave Ben a call, and that's maybe why he didn't take it. I don't know, but you are right. It is unfortunate. I think it goes both ways, Rob. I think sometimes actors get too much credit sometimes for a really great movie and script. It's like, you do know they didn't write those lines, right? But at the same time, we've seen a lot of examples where, an actor who's a great actor is in a bad movie, but people blame the actor for it being a bad movie. It's like, they didn't write the story or anything like that. Can you think of any good example off the top of your head of a really good example of that?
Of an actor being blamed for a movie?
Either blamed or given too much credit?
I'm a huge fan of this movie called Color of Night. And it stars Jane Marsh and Bruce Willis.
Now I remember.
And it was released. And by the way, Kino Lorber put both versions out on Blu-ray last year. And director Richard Rush, who's he made a movie called The Stuntman, which is one of my favorite movies. He also made Freebie and the Bean. Made this movie. Now, I love this movie, but man, did Bruce Willis catch hell when this movie came out. And I can't blame him for it. I think he really tries hard. And I love The Color of Night. But it's not good.
Two that jump out to me. One is Zac Efron's career. That's because I think Zac Efron's a great actor, but he's been in a number of very, very questionable movies. But then some people just assume that means he's not very good. The other is Chris Tucker. Because I've never been able to stand Chris Tucker. Except in Rush Hour 2. I thought he was bloody comedic brilliant in Rush Hour 2. But whenever I say, I'm not a big fan of Chris Tucker, people go, but, Fifth Element, John. Fifth Element. It's
Ruby Rod. Are you
the
green?
movie's great, but...
Are you green, John?
It's not because... I don't know.
Come on. Corbin Dallas?
What's next?
The other black guy, Chloe, we'll find who did this. Amenadiel. I know who did... Amenadiel. I know who did this. Lucifer, I'll drive. Favorite moment in my favorite episode. Love the season.
I don't want to give too much away, but that moment had me sitting in my... It's from the new season of Lucifer. And, Chloe, they're at a murder scene, and Chloe, the detective, says, we'll find who did this, Amenadiel. Amenadiel is Lucifer's angelic brother, and who is a badass, and really funny in the show, too. And it's a friend of Amenadiel. I won't give all the details away, but it's a friend of Amenadiel's dad. She goes, we'll find who did this. And he goes, I know who did this. And Lucifer just looks at him and goes, I'll drive. And I'm like, I'm just sitting in my chair going, oh, it was such a great moment. I loved this season of Lucifer. I don't know if it was my favorite season so far, but it was really good. They did some different things. I just, that scene though, that was a great one. I'm so glad you brought that one back up. I know you probably haven't had a chance to watch any of this yet, right, Rob?
I have not, but I'm going to watch it.
Oh my God, watch it. Oh, and the Eve character is so good. Anyway, okay, what's next?
Patrick Conway, I hope Maleficent is evil. Same for Cruella movie.
I mean, look, I don't mind if they keep her the way she was in the last movie. Just don't tell us again. Well, I guess by calling it Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, I guess they are doing it again. They're telling, but don't do that if she's not going to be the Mistress of Evil. Don't do the big bait and switch with us on this character. You told us the movie was about the villain. It's about the villain. It's about the villain. But it wasn't about the villain. Now you're calling her the Mistress of Evil. Let's see if she does a turn. I don't have a lot of vested interest, though, Rob, in the Cruella movie, the one with Emma Stone. I don't have a lot of vested interest in that. I think there's different ways they could go. Maybe she's reformed. Maybe she's not. I don't know. Do you think they're going to make her bad, or do you think they're going to make her good?
Probably bad. I would. But, dude, Maleficent and Cruella de Vil, like a team-up film in the modern day in New York City. I am so in. If you can get Glenn Close to play Cruella, Maleficent. I'm in. Why don't they just do a whole Disney villainous team-up movie?
Yeah, have Ursula show up.
I mean, that would be great. That would be great.
All right, what's next?
Razor Edge Frisbee. Have you guys seen the video of Taron Egerton and Elton John singing Tiny Dancer together? Taron has an incredible voice, even more stoked for Rocket Man.
I'm telling you what, I've liked this kid for a long time. I didn't know he had pipes like that. When you're standing on stage with Elton John and you're singing it out and you're like, no, he's good. Rob, you heard a little bit of it yourself.
I was blown away.
Floored.
You know, I keep hearing about how he did most of his singing, if not all the singing, in Rocket Man.
Yeah.
Which I love. I mean, I love that idea, and clearly he has. But, you know, I think a lot of actors, especially actors that grew up in the theater in Britain, are trained to sing. I mean, they get a more singing because they have to. I mean, they're required to sing. If you're going to be in Les Mis or something. So I think that it might be surprising because we think the kid from Kingsman can sing, but apparently
he
not only can he sing, but he can sing one of the greatest male pop vocalists of all time. He can sing like that dude, and that's some good singing.
Yeah, on stage with him at the same time.
I think Rocket Man looks so
intimidating.
good, man. I can't wait.
I'm curious about it. I am very, very curious. The one thing that's turned me off about it, though, is that they told us a lot in advance. This isn't a biography. This is a trippy, whimsical journey, just kind of using certain tentpole events in Elton John's life, and it's going to be really this fantastical thing. And then they gave a first trailer that looked like that. And then Bohemian Rhapsody was such a huge success, and all of a sudden now, the trailers make it look like a Bohemian Rhapsody. It's like, are you kind of trying to mislead the audience here? I don't know, but I am very curious to see this film, and it's coming out soon. So we'll find out pretty soon. All right, what's next?
Mickey Alteri, over under 15% GRRM told D&D a false ending for Game of Thrones, knowing fan reactions wouldn't be great, in hopes of more people getting his final 2 books to find out the real ending of these characters.
Way under. That's a zero possibility. George R.R. Martin knows where his bread is truly buttered is from these TV deals. That's where he gets his money. Don't get me wrong. He's made money off the books. Absolutely he has. But he has made his fortune with the television deals. And he stands to make more fortunes with the future rights and all that kind of stuff. He would not do something that stupid to endanger his working relationships, his deals and stuff like that. So no, I'm going to I'll go way under 15. I'm going to take the big zero on that one. I'm going to take the ultimate zero on that one. So no, they were all on the same page. All right, what's next?
Willow Yang, if John Wick does beat Endgame.
Dalton?
That was a...
Oh, that was a continuation
Yeah.
thing? Okay, yes.
Willow Yang, if John Wick does beat Endgame this week, could you please make a thumbnail of him shooting Thanos in the head for snapping away his dog?
I cannot look personally. The only reason I don't care whether John Wick beats it or not. The only reason I'm kind of hoping it does is because I want to see what Ray comes up with for a thumbnail. Because did you see the thumbnail from yesterday's show, Rob?
No.
Let me bring it up here for anybody. Hold a second. I'm going to see if I can grab this here. Give me 1 second. What happened yesterday? Okay, so the big story yesterday was that Pikachu ended up not beating Endgame at the box office like some people kind of thought and maybe speculated it would, right? So Endgame beat it. So I just told Ray, hey, Ray, our main thumbnail image should be the fact that Endgame did beat Pikachu at the box office. So Ray made this. Which I thought was hilarious.
It is hilarious.
Apparently, some fans of Pokemon, who I thought the fans of Pokemon would think this is hilarious, but apparently some fans of Pokemon were offended by it. But I told Ray, don't you worry about that. So now I really want to see what Ray comes up with if John Wick does beat Endgame next weekend. Just for that alone, I want to see that.
He still had that just like little blissful face,
yeah,
even with the sword through his butt.
All right.
Mason Barr, I'm still Team Danny. She has a Thanos vibe to her. Regardless, the true queen is Anne with no E. Love you all. Thanks for a wonderful show.
Yeah, of course, Anne does the post-cap thing with me, and some people have sent in, and I did finally see it, some people have been sending in like graphics of Anne dressed as a queen and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. She got a big kick out of that stuff, you guys. Thank you so much for saying that, and I'm sure she'll get a kick out of hearing this, Mason. Thanks a lot for sharing, because she watches this show. So She's smiling somewhere right now. Thank you for that. All right, what's next?
Benny 95, Game of Thrones is the new Last Jedi. It's not 10% of fans that are upset. Most videos on YouTube have people agreeing with the poor writing, i.e. Jeremy Jans, Angry Joe, Screen Junkies, The Real Rejects, etc.
Again, I'm not going to get dragged into a Game of Thrones debate here, but who cares what anybody else says, and who cares whether people love it? Who cares whether these people hate it? It doesn't matter that, oh, these YouTubers said this, or oh, those YouTubers. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I say I like it. It doesn't matter that somebody else says they don't like it. Irrelevant. It's all what does the individual audience member think. And yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's not just like 10% of people that don't like this season of Game of Thrones. It's more than that. I think it's fair to say it's fairly divisive. I think it's awesome. Other people think it's terrible. It is what it is. All right, what's next?
Raven, do you realize that Marvel Studios stole your intro logo? You should get a lawyer and go after them. Get yourself some of that sweet Disney money.
That's right. Rob, you get on the phone with Bob Iger and you let him know that I'm not standing for this, that he stole my thing. Clearly, they stole it from me.
Well, it's always so easy to get into litigation with Disney because they don't have very good lawyers. They don't have much money to put behind their legal defense.
You can push them over just like that.
Yeah,
So simple. All right, what's next?
Zach Barcher on Disney to assume full control of Hulu by 2024 from Variety.
Yeah, apparently this kind of just dropped that Disney is they're going to be the full-blown owners of that. Now, we always knew that was a possibility. I questioned whether or not that would happen because I thought, if you're Comcast, do you want to sell off your interest in this? Disney's going to put a lot of money into Hulu and turn Hulu into a very profitable thing. Why not hold on to your ownership and just keep reaping in that green? But I guess Disney must have made them a pretty decent offer. I can only assume, Rob, that Disney had this figured out a long time ago.
It's all part of the plan.
It was all part of the ultimate plan that they knew in buying that out, at some point they were going to need to buy out the rest of Comcast out of Hulu. And Comcast was a minority owner in that, so maybe it didn't actually cost all that much. But I think it gives Disney a lot. Well, I don't know how much more leeway it gives Disney. Disney was already the controlling interest in it, but maybe they think it's going to be more profitable than that, and they just want a 100% control. So it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves. I like Hulu. I'm actually a big Hulu fan. So we'll see how that goes. All right, what's next?
Tyler Van, what are some of the things you like about Revenge of the Sith? By far the best of the prequels.
I've always called Revenge of the Sith the least offensive of the prequels. And I think it's the best of the prequels. I don't know. Here's the funny thing, Rob. I actually think there are better highlight moments in both The Force Awakens, or The Phantom Menace, and Attack of the Clones. I think even Attack of the Clones, as awful as it is, there are some good highlight moments in it. I just think overall, Revenge of the Sith seemed to steady a little bit more than the other two. And there was less really offensive stuff in it than were in the other two. But if I had to think of a big highlight moment, I think I would have to go with the slaughter at Mustafar, where Anakin shows up and just wipes out all the leaders of the Separatists. That's a pretty cool scene. I do like that scene quite a bit. Rob, does anyone pop to your head that you actually quite like?
I like that Palpatine goes to the opera.
Oh my gosh.
I just thought we never get to see any kind of real entertainment. Like, on Coruscant we've seen
regular life in the Star Wars.
Yeah. And it's like, wow, Palpatine, despite the fact that he's a Sith Lord, he likes the opera, and I thought that was kind of cool. Or whatever the equivalent of the Star Wars, whatever that is, whatever he's watching. And I enjoyed seeing that, and that's where he talks about Darth Plagueis the Wise, whatever and all that. I enjoyed that, but there's a lot in Sith that I enjoy. I still think it's all kind of weird and goofy, but I will say this, the brand new Obi-Wan hot toy. That is choice.
All right, what's next?
Donaldo Martinez, morning all. Rob, did you buy Alien on 4K? Looks good. Also next month, 1989 Batman 4K.
I did buy Alien on 4K. It was $15, and both versions are in both the director's cut and the original version. And it looks. That movie looks like it was shot today. I mean, aside from some of the computer displays, it just is a beautiful film. I love it so much.
Nice. All right, what's next?
Benny 95. If season 8 were 10 episodes and gave us more time to marinate on character stories closing, I think some of the poor writing would be forgiven. Real shame.
Again, not going to get dragged into any sort of debates here, but I will say this. Besides the fact that there is no poor writing in this season, that's just my opinion. Others disagree. One thing I would agree with, though, and I have been worried about this since the end of season 6, when they said that season 7 was going to be, I thought 8, but Rob corrected me, it was 7, and that the season 8 was only going to be 6 episodes. I was worried since the end of season 6 that regardless of what they do, only having 13 episodes left to wrap everything up, my fear was a little bit rushed. And while I have thoroughly enjoyed this season of Game of Thrones, even I will say that it feels like they needed, by necessity, they skipped a couple of steps to get to where they're going. I loved where they're going and loved what was done. But even I have to say that I have felt that rushed. And actually at the end, Rob, of this week's episode, I was like, how is there 80 minutes left? How at this point do you only have 80 minutes left to wrap all of this up? So I'm in complete agreement on that. I right from season 6, I thought, no, if you're going to do these last 2 seasons, make them full, proper seasons. But John, they had episodes that had 15 extra minutes. That doesn't make up for it. I have no idea why they didn't just do full seasons. I understand if it's expensive, but this is one of the most damn successful shows of all time. You can afford it. And I think they would have avoided a lot of that feeling stuff too. And we'll see how the last thing goes, but I agree. It does feel a little bit rushed, and I've always feared it would do that, and I still don't understand. Nobody has properly explained to me, Rob, since 2 years ago, well, 3 years ago, really, why they needed to make last season 7 episodes and why this season needed to be 6. No one has explained that to me. It's a ridiculous notion. I get it if it was a middle-of-the-road successful show, and like you can only put so much in. Like they said, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to have its last season, but it's going to be shortened because it's only middling successful. I would have understood that. This is one of the most successful TV shows of all time. There was simply no excuse to make last season 7, this season 6. I will never understand it, and no one's been able to explain it to me. But anyway, I've already spent way too much time on that. Sorry
I agree
about
with
that.
you, though.
All right, what's next?
Jared's reviews, trying to build up my knowledge of film. Any suggestions for films to see besides the obvious classic? By the way, Jonathan does a great job with the movie news.
Oh, thanks for mentioning that, Jared. I mean, any movies I could say would clearly be classics. I'd say you got to watch Lawrence of Arabia. You got to watch Ben-Hur. You've got to watch the original Spartacus with Kirk Douglas. You got to watch Bridge on the River Kwai. You got to watch... there's some Bogart stuff that you should really watch and stuff like that. Are there any films that really jump out to you, Rob, when somebody goes, I want to get into some, like, what's really iconic film that I need to see? Do you got some go-to ones?
Well, you got to see Casablanca. You got to see Double Indemnity. You got to see Vertigo. There's a million, but these are all. If you go back and you start looking at the AFI 100 greatest movies of all time,
that's a good start.
You have to watch all of those, all of them. But some of my favorite movies of all time, All About Eve, Sunset Boulevard, must-watch films. One of my favorite films of all time that'll teach you more about film editing than you could possibly learn in school, All That Jazz. Unbelievable film. David Fincher said it's one of his favorite movies. It's one of my favorite films. There's so many. You got to watch the Godfather movies. There's a reason. Watch Chinatown. Yeah. Watch Rosemary's Baby. Watch The Exorcist. Watch the original Planet of the Apes. I mean, we could go on forever. We could do a longer than our Endgame review, our 5-hour Endgame review. We could sit here, John and I could sit here for 10 hours and talk about what movies you should see.
We should do a video of like the 100 movies you must watch.
No, it'd be the 100 movies from your perspective and the 100 movies from my perspective.
So 200.
We'll come out with 200 movies, and I bet a lot of our movies are the same.
Oh, probably are. All right, what's next?
Yeah, I was going to suggest the AFI list, though. It's great.
It is really good.
Yeah. Razor Edge Frisbee, the new trailer for Midsummer just dropped. My God, how can such a brightly lit movie be so unnerving and creepy?
I saw this. Rob,
there's a new trailer? I'm done. This is now after John Wick 3. This is the movie I am most excited about this summer.
Midsommar?
Yeah, I have not seen the new trailer.
I'll tell you, A24 has done it again. A24 has done it again. I'll tell you what, I don't know if this is the same director of which, but...
No, it's Hereditary. It's the same director of Hereditary.
But oh my God, it felt like Witch. And I loved The Witch. I thought that was... There were some more fans that didn't like, but I thought, it was so much atmosphere and so much... And this feels like that. And I'm watching this trailer at first. I'm like, okay... What the hell is that? And why are they doing that? Oh my God, I would be out of there in 3. Like, it's creepy, Rob. I cannot wait for you to watch it.
I can't. Look, you talked about The Witch. I love The Witch. Black Phillip, the goat.
Yep.
My girlfriend Elizabeth showed me over the weekend somebody who's made a duvet cover of Black Phillip. And it's this big, so when you have it over your bed, it's this giant circular thing with his face, and it says, "Live deliciously." And I said, we got to get that. And she's like, there's no way you're putting this.
One of the creepiest moments ever in film is the camera on the girl, and you just hear a voice going, what dost thou want? That's all you hear. And the camera just stays on the girl. And then the girl, you just see her looking past the camera going, what dost thou offer? It's an amazing little exchange that just will creep you the F out. It's so good. Anyway, A24 does it again. All right, what's next?
Andrew Ibarra, what's more likely to happen from Disney, Tron 3 or John Carter sequel?
You're not going to see a John Carter sequel, which is really too bad. You know, I was flipping through... what was I on? Oh, it was in my Netflix thing. Yeah, John Carter came up on my Netflix. I'm like, oh, I only had like 20 minutes before I had to go out, but I put on a good 15, 20 minutes of that movie. I love that movie. It's never going to happen.
It rules.
It's so good, but I don't think Tron 3 is going to happen either, but it's still alive. The possibility of that is still alive, so I would say Tron 3 is the better chance. All right, what's next?
Orange Hand. Hi, John. Thoughts on the idea of shows being plot-driven versus character-driven? I see it brought up a lot by Game of Thrones fans. I want to know your thoughts.
Both are great if you do them properly. Like, you can have a truly great plot-driven film, and there are several of the classics that are absolutely that. And then you can have great films that really are character-centric and they're character-driven, which are also great. I don't think one is inherently better than the other. They've both been done poorly. They've both been done well. So I don't have... It's like asking me... John, do you prefer movies that have even number runtimes or odd number runtimes? I mean, both will have potential to do what they can do. I don't necessarily have a preference of one or the other. Rob, what about you?
No, I don't have a preference. You know, I don't.
All right, what's next?
Jeremiah Hernandez. Hey, John, did you know the Dark Elves from the Thor the Dark World were almost in the end sequence for Endgame by visual effect director?
I don't know how they would have justified that, but then again, almost nothing in the final end scene of Endgame makes much logical sense, and that's okay, so who cares? It would have been pretty awesome to see Dark Elves show up, because, look, say what you want about Thor the Dark World, and we have spoken many negative things about Thor the Dark World. The Dark Elves in and of themselves are a pretty damn cool concept.
Yeah.
And to see Dark Elves, I mean, I don't think they would have come in to help. Well, maybe they would have helped the Avengers because half of their maybe half of them got wiped out. I don't know, but I did not know about. Did you hear about that before, Rob? I had not.
But I know I've seen people pointed out where Howard the Duck is and all
yes.
that. But the Dark Elves, I hadn't heard that. That's cool.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
But I am curious. Would they have come out on the Avengers side because Thanos is a common threat? Or do they come out with...
Well, they would have lost half the Dark Elves, would have lost half their elven population, so I think they would have been pissed.
But they wanted to cast the universe into Eternal Night, so maybe they would have been with his side. All right, what's next?
Dimsum05. I've had 2 movie crushes in my life, Jessica Biel as a teen and Emma Rossum after hearing her belt it out on Conan as an adult. How about you?
Emmy Rossum is beautiful. There's no doubt about that. And of course, so is Jessica Biel. Me, it has been... I've had 3 main ones. I've had a dozen or more, obviously, but I've had 3 main ones. For the longest time when I was a lot younger, Courtney Cox. Don't know why, but Courtney Cox, particularly when she was in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, I just, wow. Why am I freezing on her name? Something about Mary Girl. Why am I freezing on her name?
Cameron Diaz?
Diaz. Cameron Diaz from The Mask. I don't think there has ever been a male or female human being that has ever looked more attractive than Cameron Diaz looked in The Mask. That's just that. And then for the longest time, my celebrity crush has been Jennifer Garner. There's something about Jennifer Garner, man, that just... I remember the first time I met her, she was actually probably about 7 months pregnant. And I still just remembering, this woman glows. Like, even like 7 months pregnant, she glows. It just... So that's mine. Rob, what's been your main crushes through your celebrity crushes through your life?
I have to clarify this by saying that when I have my crushes, it's based on the actress and the character that they're playing in a particular movie. Number 1 of all time, Grace Kelly in Rear Window.
Oh.
No way, no how. Grace Kelly in Rear Window. She comes over with a overnight bag packed with military precision. I mean, she's unbelievable. Then Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct.
Oh, that's
I don't want to get
one.
run through with an ice pick, and I know she's crazy, but that and Caroline Munro in Star Crash and Spy Love Me.
Let me ask Ashley. Ashley, you got any celebrity crushes you've had in your life?
You guys know it. Yeah, I was really into Christopher Abbott.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but these are more current. Christopher Abbott and Chris Pratt, I think, would be the 2 just off the top of my head. But yeah, no, Christopher Abbott, I actually met him in life. So I was like, oh yeah, this guy is cute. But yeah, he was my crush when I was watching Girls.
True story about Christopher Pratt. True story, just for your benefit, Ashley. So I've met him a few times. He had come into my studio on a couple of different occasions. And both times Anne was there, particularly this one where we did this. It was before the first Guardians came out. And we had Kevin Feige, James Gunn, and Chris Pratt all come in. And we sat down, and Anne was there. And he got to meet Anne. And we hung out a little bit. Yes. Fast forward like 6 months, all right? Now remember, Chris Pratt meets a bunch of yoo-hoos like me, like 1,000 of me a day. Like he like with press and all that kind of stuff. So obviously. So 6 months later, I'm at the press junket for it on the Disney lot. And it comes my turn to go in to sit down and talk to Chris Pratt. And I go in, and they have somebody at the door who announces you when you come into the town. They say, this is John Campea from AMC. And Chris goes, John. I'm like, hey, Chris. I didn't think he actually knew who I was or remembered who I was. He stands up, comes to shake my hand, goes, hey, man, how's Anne?
Ah, see, he's the best.
So I instantly, when I'm done my interview with Chris, which was like the most awesome thing. When I was done with my interview with Chris, I walked down the hall. I immediately pulled up my thing. I said, just talked to Chris Pratt. The very first thing he said to me was, how's Anne? And Anne texts back to me about 30 seconds. What? With like WTF with question marks and exclamation marks and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, that's just how cool he is. That's just how cool he is.
Wait a minute. I feel then I should give you some modern. I got 4. Can I give you 4?
Ooh,
Yeah.
sure.
Kate Winslet, Kate Beckinsale, Karen Gillan, and Leah Seydoux.
Bam.
There you go. Bam.
Not bad. Not bad.
Great. All great women.
We could sit here all day.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next?
They're just going to keep rolling through my mind now. Razor Edge Frisbee. I struggle with anxiety on a daily basis, so I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for pretty much being my only real escape from it. I truly mean that.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you know, the great thing, we talk about this all the time, great thing about the film fan community is we offer to each other a little bit of an escape, but then we reset our minds, we get a little bit of clarity, and then when we go back out into the real world stuff and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, I love it. And it's been that for me many, many times, Razor's Edge. It's been that for me many times. And it's awesome when the film fan community can be that for other people as well. So thank you, dude, for sharing that. That was really good of you. All right, what's next?
Isaac Beepy. Nebula. I wasn't always like this. Rhodes. Me neither. I used to be Terrence Howard.
Okay, that's good. I didn't go where I thought it was going. I thought it was just going like, oh, that was a really good line from Endgame. And I was about to say, yeah, man, that was one of my favorite lines from Endgame. Not me either. I used to be Terrence Howard.
That's
okay,
Isaac.
That's the line of the day so far. All right, what's next?
CJ Adams, over under 1%. Hound gets trolled, walks out of the fire, and goes, effing cow sucking Lord of Light thinks that since I died in a fire, he can just bring me back like I'm some goat suckling follower of his.
I remember me and Anna were talking about that. I'm like, I really hope they don't have either Hound or Mountain, but particularly Hound, all of a sudden in the next episode just walking out of the rubble. I thought that was a great end. I don't want him to come walking back out. I'll be a little bit disappointed if they do that, but we'll wait. But that does sound, CJ, exactly like something he would say. That sounds exactly like something the Hound would say. All right, what's next?
Rush LP. Hey, John, in my dream last night, you invited me to your house. We bonded over Game of Thrones Belle's episode and how much we liked it. Then you kicked me out because Anne was about to get home. It was all so random.
I really don't know how to respond to that. Thank you. Dreaming of me. Well, no, that does. Hey, look, I have these random dreams all the time. Sometimes I often wake up and go, okay, so here's what happened in my dream last night, honey. It's always the most random, ridiculous nonsense. I remember this one time I had this dream because I actually use Uber Eats because I'm lazy. I use Uber Eats, and Anne was in the mood. One thing you got to learn about my wife is that she is a McNuggets fiend, like a total chicken McNuggets fiend. As a matter of fact, there was a true news story in Burbank, Robert. I don't know if you remember hearing about this. A couple of years ago.
Oh, I just want to see where this goes.
Yeah.
Where a woman was literally arrested in Burbank outside of McDonald's prostituting herself for McNuggets. Asking for offering to prostitute herself for McNuggets. At which point, about 10 of our friends instantly emailed us saying, Anne? With a question mark. Like, what's that? Because she is a McNuggets fiend. Anyway, I had this weird dream that we ordered Uber Eats because we have for McDonald's once or twice. They brought McNuggets, and it was not Russell Crowe, Mel Gibson was delivering Uber Eats, and we just stood at the door talking about Braveheart a little bit. It was the most weird random thing ever. But anyway, random dreams do happen. All right, what's next?
Bassam F. Trivia. Aladdin isn't an Arab folktale. He was invented by the French Orientalist Antoine Galland, and his first ever adventure takes place in China.
I had no idea.
I did not know that either.
So, I mean, you could just be BSing us and I would never know, but that's really an interesting little bit of trivia, especially going into the opening of Aladdin in a couple of weeks. Thanks for sharing that, man. All right, what's next?
Evan Hill. Watched Gods of Egypt with my friend last night. It's the best, worst movie ever. Thanks for what you do. You get me through my day.
Oh, yeah.
Do you actually like that movie, Rob?
Gods of Egypt rules. And not only does Gods of Egypt rule, it's the history of the planetoid from Dark City. So it's the Alex Proyas universe. I mean, look, I saw Gods of Egypt in the Chinese theater on Hollywood Boulevard. Huge. And I just sat there because I really like Alex Proyas. I love The Crow, which celebrated its 25th anniversary yesterday. I love Knowing, which he also made, which is a great Nicolas Cage science fiction film. And I love Dark City. He also made a movie about a band in Australia. But I think Gods of Egypt was bonkers. I love it unapologetically, where the Hot Toys action figures are never going to make. I'm an apologist. I even own it on 3D Blu-ray. Woohoo!
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I'm surprised they even made a 3D Blu-ray.
Oh, yes, they did.
All right, what's next?
KW Garrett 83. John, if you're a Tony Shalhoub fan, you gotta watch Monk. Please watch the pilot episode on Amazon Prime during your next lunch break. My favorite detective show.
You know, we talked about this, came up the other day actually, that I really love Tony Shalhoub. I loved him all the way back. I first discovered him in Wings, the sitcom Wings. I loved that show, and I thought he was great in it. And of course, he was Master Splinter, and now he's in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which is fabulous, and he's great in it. But what he is best known for and most decorated for is Monk, and I've never seen Monk. So I've had more and more people. Have you watched
good.
Monk?
Yeah.
I got to get on that.
Monk.
I got to get on that and start watching that. All right, what's next?
Alexander Wilson. John, R&B said that we were teased. Captain holding Mjolnir. I can never say that. Mjolnir. But we weren't teased with Danny's turn. Captain hasn't seen the hammer in years, but that tease was good, but not Danny, who has shown us her cruelty since season 1, huh?
Well, all due respect to Alexander, we're not here to get into Game of Thrones debates, in which we are not going to get into Game of Thrones debates on this whatsoever. By the way, thank you. That was a very generous super chat you sent in and all that kind of stuff. So, look, the bottom line is this. There are different people that have different points of view of a piece of entertainment that's out there. What's new? Robert feels one way about a thing. I feel another way about a thing. On some other properties, we might feel reversed. On some other things, we'll feel exactly the same, just as fan A and fan B will, and all that kind of stuff across the universe. So, again, I'm not going to get dragged into this argument, not going to get dragged into this debate.
Well, but without arguing about this particular point, I think if a character is shown to be nuanced and have many things going on, it wasn't just one thing going on. These characters, that's what a well-defined character is. And then to then end a character's journey with one aspect of their personality stressed as opposed to everything we've watched, I don't think that does the character a service.
And then you and I can debate on whether or not that's what actually happened. But again,
I wasn't speaking about a specific character.
Right.
I was just saying in general.
But again, we're not going to get dragged into that. But I mean, everybody's talking. Everybody's talking, and right now HBO is laughing all the way to the bank because the numbers are going up, and everybody's talking about it. It's the number one trending topic on social media and all that kind of stuff. So hey, it's doing exactly what they wanted it to do. All right, what's next?
Russell P. also watched Long Shot last night with girlfriend. So funny, haven't laughed so much in a while. Charlize is distractingly beautiful, and I was crushing so hard.
Now, you saw that, right, Ashley?
I saw it, yeah.
You liked it?
I loved it. I mean, I love Seth Rogen's humor. I thought she was great in it. I have to say, though, I wonder what other people think. The ending, like the last 20 minutes went so broad for me that I was like, I thought they were going to keep it grounded and really be like, oh, well, this is actually what would really probably happen. But instead, they went totally different direction.
In a different direction.
And I was like, okay, rom-com. But
it was a very rom-com ending.
Rom-com ending.
And
I was like,
you know what I find? Even the rom-coms I love, there are very, very few rom-coms, even amongst the ones that I like a lot, like Long Shot. I love Long Shot. I think it's really funny. Very few rom-coms stick their ending. Like usually most rom-coms, even the great ones, will have a very rom-com ending, and Long Shot certainly did.
Yeah.
Some of the very few, 40-Year-Old Virgin, I think, had a magnificent, imaginative, weird kind of ending, which is great. But I mean, a lot of the great ones I love, including, I think you're absolutely right about Long Shot. It's a weird ending.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to give away the joke, but just guys, there's a joke about Captain Crunch in this movie that when Ann and I just reference it to each other, we both still start laughing hysterically. Have you had a chance to see Long Shot yet, Rob?
I have not, but I'm curious
You
to
gotta
see it.
see it.
I'm a secret long shot. I'm a secret rom-com admirer. I'm
Yeah.
a sucker for a good rom-com.
So am I. I
Have
think
you-
most people are if they admit it.
Did you guys see Isn't It Romantic? Because it's making fun of rom-coms, and it's
No.
freaking hilarious.
You know what, Dennis,
Yeah.
my friend Dennis was over here the other night, and he was talking to me specifically. He goes, "Did you actually see this?" And I'm like, "No, it was good." And I've heard from a number of people because that movie looked awful.
I know, but it's great.
I've heard it's actually quite
because
clever.
he really just makes fun of every nuance in a rom-com, and it's great. But Long Shot, I will have to say, I loved the first 2 acts and
Yeah.
half the third, but
It was
then
a little too long for its own good.
yeah, it was a long shot.
But check it out. Yeah, it was a long shot. Check it out, guys. You really should go check that one out.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Jake C. It only made $2.6 billion. What a flop.
Yep, that's with the Boo Birds. I'm telling you, the Boo Birds are going to try to paint everything negative. I'm telling you what. Yeah, but it's true. Well said, Jake.
Why
All
do
right,
I
what's
feel
next?
like Boo Birds comes from Eagles fans? It's like such a Philly,
I've heard it used many times about Eagles fans, actually, but also other fans as well.
but it doesn't originate from them.
I
Okay.
don't think so.
Good. Edgar Navarro. Finally, an update on MK. I'm so happy.
I'm assuming that's Mortal Kombat? Guys, listen,
oh, yeah.
seriously, but I don't know. That could mean a number of things.
I
Guys,
thought it
listen,
was Moon Knight, and I was shaking. Like, really?
Maybe he is talking about Moon Knight. I don't know. Guys, listen, please. I've asked many times if you're taking a risk if all you put is the abbreviation or what's the, when you just use the letters. What's that called again? Acronym.
Yeah.
If you just use the acronym, you're risking us not knowing what it is you're talking about for sure. So so I'm not really sure what we were talking about.
Also,
All right.
someone messaged me once about Mortal Kombat saying that it wasn't on Sega, but I had it on Sega Genesis, so I just wanted to say that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Wasn't it on Sega Genesis? Maybe
Sega was a system I didn't really play.
I only had Sega Genesis, and I had it, so I'm curious. I think so. I think that's what I remember. Keith Gilmore, what role can you see The Rock playing in the MCU?
Who knows? I never take what X role should X actor take. I don't know. Rock's a big, charismatic, fun guy. You can shape any character, Tim, if you wanted to. So I don't really have anything other than that.
Ben
Rob?
Grimm, The Thing.
Really? You think Grimm has that kind of charm and personality, though?
I think he could. I think The Rock could do it. I mean, I think he's charming, but he's bummed out because he's the Thing.
Yeah, this thing, I never sensed a lot of charm and charisma from Ben Grimm.
Besides, if he was the Thing, I'd love to see him and Ruffalo mix it up.
That would be fun. One of my very first comic books ever actually was a Hulk versus the Thing comic book. It was pretty fun. All right, what's next?
Echo Base Network. Is it just me, or does Ashley look and sound just like Hawkeye's wife from Endgame? When I saw the movie and saw that scene, that's what popped in my head.
You know what? Somebody else mentioned that to me once. And I'm trying to remember the name of the actress.
I'm not even remembering
Linda
what she looked
Cardinelli.
like.
Yes. Yeah, there is a little bit. And she's also in the La Llorona. Is that not her in La Llorona?
Yeah, I think she's.
I think it is. So I especially hear it a little bit. I
just saw her on. She was on the talk show circuit. And she was on with who's the blonde from Married with Children?
Christina Applegate?
Yeah, she was on with Christina.
Oh,
Christina,
nice.
and they're like good friends. And Christina Applegate didn't know she was in Endgame,
Oh, really?
which I thought was kind of charming.
I love
right.
Christina Applegate.
What's next?
I heard her new show's great.
Oh, what's it called again?
With the other girl.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny because Ann and I, we were at home last night. We had about an hour to kill before she had to go out, and I had to do some work. And we thought, oh, let's watch something new. And we're like, oh, we both want to see that new Christina Applegate show. But we watched an episode of Lucifer again instead. But I do want to get on
Yeah,
that.
I hear
And
the
it's
premise
her.
is
It's with
good.
Cardinelli. It's two. They're in the same show. Yeah.
I hear it's great.
Yeah,
All right,
I hear
what's
the
next?
premise is good. Carter, 2019 is the end of an era for several franchises I grew up with. Fox's X-Men, Marvel's Infinity Saga, Star Wars episodic series.
Yeah, well, we don't know if the episodic series, we'll know it's the end of the Skywalker saga, but I still believe at some point we're getting Star Wars Episode 10. It'll be different characters. It won't revolve around the Skywalker, something else, but I still think they're going to call it 10. Don't know that for sure, but it would seem a shame if they didn't. But yeah, with the end of the Skywalker saga, the end of the feels like the X-Men thing is really going out on a whimper, though. Unfortunately, like it was cresting so high when we were coming out of First Class and coming out of especially Days of Future Past. to end on the notes of Apocalypse, which wasn't garbage, but was a step down. And now this whole X-Men Dark Phoenix thing doesn't sound like it's very good. It's too bad. But you're right, several big tentpole things coming to an end now. But again, the MCU continues, right? Star Wars continues. So it's not really an end, just the X-Men one. How do you see that, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, the stuff will go on. There'll be more X-Men, but I understand what he's saying. I mean, Thrones is ending. There's
that's another one, yeah.
I wish Star Trek Discovery was ending. But, there's a lot of things that... And it's good because then it makes way for new things. And I can't wait to see what's coming down the pike. We're getting The Expanse Season 4.
Yeah.
So.
I was just reading an article last night about that. Amazon talking about them, why they saved The Expanse. You guys got me turned on to The Expanse, and I've now all caught up. I've seen all 3 seasons. All right, let's take a couple more. What's next?
Ismail Edu, interview Q. What film should everyone see? I said Schindler's List. What's all yours?
There's simply not one answer to that. I mean, you could say The Godfather. You could say Star Wars. You could say any of the films that Rob mentioned earlier, any of the films, there's simply not one. I really can't. If I was really pressed and somebody said, I want to see like the pinnacle filmmaking, I might say, well, then you should probably watch Godfather. Maybe, I don't know, but do you have one that you go to, Rob?
It depends. I'm like, what genre do you like? Do you like comedies? Do you like dramas? There's so many. One film is too much. I mean, a movie that I think everybody should see is the extended version of Almost Famous.
That was pretty cool.
Because that movie never gets enough love.
Okay, guys, listen, we are almost out of time here, so we're not going to be able to get around to all the questions we have left, but the ones that we don't get around to between now and the end of the show, don't worry, they will be addressed later today in a companion video. So there are a few people who sent in some bigger super chats, and because they've contributed to the channel like that, I want to make sure we try to get their questions done before we end here. So let's race through here and go with Jesus Zavala. Have you caught up there, Ash?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go there.
All right, Jesus. If D&D are basing the season 8 ending of Game of Thrones off a book outlined by GRRM, then season 8 was set up for failure. The show lacks the characters, budget, and source material to reach the truthful end of the story.
Of course, the problem is you're saying that as somebody who's never read what J.R.R. Martin is setting up or what he was planning on or anything like that.
J.R.R. Martin.
J.R.R. Martin. Sorry, I'm kidding. J.R.R. Tolkien. George R.R. Martin. J.R.R. Come on, it's Tolkien. Tolkien's out in theaters. Cut me some slack. So you're saying that. So that's pretty definitive to say. So I don't know. I don't think I agree. All right, what's next?
Mr. Asylum Project, for a moment, I considered not watching the final episode of Game of Thrones. As 50 Cent said, I watch gangsta flicks and root for the bad guy, but turn it off before it ends because the bad guy dies.
You know what? I think I've actually heard that quote by 50 Cent before. That's intriguing. I like that kind of approach, Mr. Asylum Project. Interesting point of view. I like that. All right, what's next?
Hector Travels. In regards to the use of Hulk in Avengers 4 and 5, who decides the fate and look of the character? Is it the screenwriters and or directors? How much influence does the director have over the screenwriters? Thanks, y'all.
It's all different depending on the project. The MCU is a very different place from a lot of other standard filmmaking things because at the heart and the core of it, Kevin Feige has to approve everything. Because this is the problem. The director working on one movie, you can't just let them do whatever they want to do because you have other films that need to be interconnected to that have to be in a certain place to make that function and work. That's why Kevin Feige is all over every single MCU film. Ultimately, how much influence does the directors have over the screenwriters? A lot, but again, only at the approval of Kevin Feige. And that's what it all comes down to. It doesn't matter if it's Joss Whedon. It doesn't matter if it's the Russo brothers. It doesn't matter if it's Derrickson. It doesn't matter if whoever it is, Favreau. Nothing happens without the approval of Kevin Feige. So ultimately, other people may come up with the idea, but it's got to get the Kevin Feige stamp of approval or else it doesn't go anywhere. So the person who ultimately has the final say-so is Kevin Feige. Do you got anything to add to that, Rob?
No, that's pretty astute.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
Murray Reich, shame on NYC AMC theaters for not allowing me to see Pikachu without 3D because even with A-List, even if I want to see it between 7 and 9 p.m., then you have to choose 3D. So now I'm going to see it at Regal. Job well done.
Well, I mean, that is unfortunate, but hey, guy, listen, seriously, Murray, consider yourself lucky that there was just a 7 to 9 window you couldn't see it. There are people in Canada who have to put up with this theater chain called Cinemaplex or Cineplex. that used to be my favorite film theater chain, and now they act pretty miserably, in my opinion, at any rate. And I'm really disappointed in them. But forget just 7 to 9. I remember I wanted to take my mom to see Bumblebee. All right, this is when it was just first in theaters. I want to take my mom to see Bumblebee. Out of the 9 or 10 screenings that day, there was only one screening of it that wasn't in 3D. And it was at like 4 p.m. Like at the most inopportune, worst time of the day. Earlier would have been better, later would have been better. One screening that wasn't in 3D. They tried to sheep and corral audiences and force audiences to go to these bullshit 3D screenings where they get as an excuse that they can charge them a higher ticket price and all that kind of stuff. Cineplex sucks. And I hate saying that because they're Canada's big theater chain, and I used to love them. Cineplex should be ashamed of themselves. I'm embarrassed by them. As a Canadian film fan, I'm embarrassed by that company. They used to be the gold standard. Now they're a bunch of crooks. They take advantage of their customers. They abuse their customers. They have no respect for their customers. All they see their customers as is, we just want to take your money without giving you a value for that money. And they're awful. They're awful. And I hope they go out of business someday. It used to be my dream, Rob, honestly. My dream used to be when I was still at the AMC, because my ultimate goal is I'm going to move back to Canada at some point. But my big dream was, when I was still at the AMC, I'm going to move back to Canada at some point, and I'm going to work for Cineplex. Because I love Cineplex. They're an embarrassment now. An absolute embarrassment. They should be ashamed of themselves. I hate the way they treat their customers, but they've got a monopoly. They've got a stranglehold monopoly on things. Anyway, so Murray, count your blessings, buddy. That it was just between 7 and 9 that you couldn't find the screen.
That was pretty epic, man. I feel the heat from over here.
I gotta not blow up on that,
Scorching.
but yeah, I'm tremendously, and partially because I loved them so much. That's why, when you loved something, that just kind of torches the fire a little bit more. Anyway, what is next?
Okay, Major, what is this notion that people have that we get to ask for a movie? Studios put out the movies that they feel will make money. Whether you choose to go see it or not is your call.
That's true. There is, I've had several times people say, why don't the studios give us this movie? Because nobody would go see that movie. I mean, ultimately that's what it comes in. Why on earth would the studios make that movie? Because it's going to make them a lot of money. As Robert Meyer Burnett often says, it's not the friend business. It's not show friends. No show friends. It's show business. That's what it comes down to. And everybody thinks, and this is no highlighted any bigger than with the Pikachu stuff, right? Everybody thinks the things I and my circle of friends are into, everybody's into, right? There's a sociological term for that. There's a phenomenon that we have, that because in this circle that I live in, something is a truth. That means it's a truth for everybody. And that's why people who are into Pokemon and all their friends love Pokemon were screaming at us, Rob. Remember, Pokemon's going to make 150 million opening weekend. It's going to make 200 opening weekend because it's the world's biggest, most popular IP. It doesn't mean it's going to be big as a movie. It opened to 55 million, which is good, but and that's kind of a thing we see a lot, K Major. And look, hey, I fall into that trap all the time. I'm sure you do too. I'm sure all of us do. It's not like we're confined. It is one of the more irritating habits that we as fans have, but we all do it. We all do it. All right, what's next?
I scrolled down to Chris Pavoto.
I think I just passed him. Where is it? Where's Chris? Oh, there he is. Chris, all right.
For Endgame, MCU films are out for 22 to 25 weeks. Captain Marvel had a jump up from Endgame release. Spidey could do this for Endgame in 2 months, 10-week mark, as they've tied the two together. Thoughts?
I don't know. To me, this is a situation where Captain Marvel and Spider-Man Far From Home will benefit big from Endgame. I don't know that Endgame benefited a hell of a lot from Captain Marvel, nor do I think it'll benefit a lot by that point by Spider-Man. Look, this is a movie that everybody saw. Not everybody went out to see Captain Marvel right away. Everybody has gone to see Endgame at this point. Everybody who's interested in it at any point. Will it have an effect? I think an effect. Will it have a significant thing? I don't think so. Rob, do you?
I don't know. I don't necessarily think so. I mean, no, I don't, because these audience members are. I think there's more people now that are going to be interested in, say, Spider-Man Far From Home, because of Endgame.
Yeah, I see it going that way for
You
sure.
know, but I don't necessarily think that more people went. So I think more people might have gone to see Infinity War because of Black Panther.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I really think that was the case.
There was a big sociological thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
associated with that,
And
too.
also the introduction in Civil War. I love Black Panther's progression from Civil War to Black Panther to Infinity War. And I thought that was truly great. I think if I think the one thing that I liked the least about Endgame was I wanted more T'Challa. I wanted more Black Panther. A little bit more of those characters that came back. But,
Other than a war chant, he had one line.
yeah, and it would have been.
Give it to me.
I would love to have seen a moment with him and Bucky, because Bucky had been in.
I wanted to see one of Tony and Bucky. But
Yeah.
I mean, we could go down that rabbit
Yeah.
hole very, very easily. All right, I think this is the last question of the day now.
Tito Machado. Tony Stark's selfish plan to bring the dusted 5 years later instead of turning back time altogether could be the perfect motivation for a new villain that lost everything after Thanos' snap. Thoughts?
I think it's time to move on from this whole story. Really, another villain who wants to undo time and undo this again. We just kind of went through this whole thing, so I don't know. And by the way, I honestly don't think it was a selfish motive by Tony, because Tony was right. Look, if we can undo the snap and bring everybody back, great. But people have made lives and good things have happened. Life has gone on over these
People have
past
been
5
born.
years.
What
People
about all
have-
the kids that were born?
Exactly. Life has gone on, and a lot of good has happened in the world, and a lot of bad, but a lot of good has happened in the world, that we can't just, you're going to kill every human, millions of people. You're going to kill millions of people and eradicate them from existence just to go back to what it was, when you can just bring back those who are gone. I don't see that as being any kind of a selfish motive. But again, I think it's time to move on from Thanos, from this whole notion of the plan. It's done. It's now played out. They concluded it. I don't see them going back to it. I mean, anything's possible. Rob, do you think they will?
No, I completely agree with you. I mean, I think they could deal with the ramifications of the snap. One of the things I would love to see, what did like CNN and Fox News and MSNBC, what did the punditry talk about once the snap happened and then once people were returned? Can you imagine? What were the what did they talk about on The View when half the population of the earth went away? And then what did they talk about when half those people came back? I mean, what about all the people you talked shit about when they were gone and then suddenly, oop, they're back again? What would that be like?
My big thing is, what happens to the woman who lost her husband 2.5 years later, finally decides to move on, gets a new husband, and then 2 years after that, boom, hey honey, I'm back. That's awkward.
Yeah, it's like Castaway.
Yes. Oh, actually, that's a great example.
Yeah.
That's a great allegory of that. All right, guys, listen. That will do it for us for today, for this installment of the John Campea Show. For everybody who had sent in super chats and we didn't get around to them, don't you worry. I'm going to be collecting up those ones, and we're going to be addressing them in today's companion video. Come back a little bit later this afternoon for that. I want to thank the people joining me here. Of course, the one and the only, the magnificent Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, where can people find you online?
Well, I have to scoop out my dead Hot Toys figures and throw them away. But after that, you can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM. Find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or on my YouTube channel, The Burnettwork, and its adjacent website, theburnettwork.net.
And of course, Ashley Whalen is here. Ashley, where can people find you?
You guys can follow me on my Instagram. It's Ashley Whalen, 2 Y's in my first name, or my Twitter is AshAttack1.
And you guys can simply follow me on social media, just at John Campea. Don't forget, guys, again, a little bit later, that companion video is coming. Keep your eyes open for that. That'll do it for us for now. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.